In a very short time, you'll have passed your certification exam. Your next step will be to find a job. That's why you started taking this course in the first place. It's why you pursued being a pharmacy technician. As you pass around different resumes around different times, you will start to get anxious and maybe a little frustrated if you can't find a job. I made this lecture so you can kind of see what I look for whenever I interview a technician, and maybe help you stand out from the crowd. The first thing I usually see people doing is just looking down, looking at the floor, never looking up, and it really gives them an air of no confidence. I need a person that's confident and willing to stand up to, say, a belligerent patient. And someone that just looks down and is really meek is not someone that really stands apart from the crowd. Look up, keep your chin up, and just be proud. Secondly, is many people they'll just start low talking and you can barely hear them. Speak up. There's no reason to speak inaudibly. Even if you're not confident in what you're saying, say your unconfident words confidently. There's no reason not to just be able to say what you're trying to say. Stop and think if you want to think about the words that you want to say, but speak up and speak confidently. You wouldn't believe this, but I've actually interviewed people that'll occasionally bring out their phone and check for an update. I don't know whether they're checking Facebook, I don't know whether they're looking to plan out their lunch date or their dinner date, but leave the phone in the pocket. There is no reason to bring it out. You're trying to be professional here. And then lastly, sometimes I get an idea that the technicians I'm interviewing are unwilling to do the job. They'll come in, they're certainly willing to do the tasks, but when it comes down to the schedule or getting here at a certain day or at a certain hour that maybe they don't like, it turns out that maybe they're not so willing to do the job. So really, I guess my point there is do your research, find out what job you're searching for and your time, and then make sure that the job you're interviewing for is something you would be interested in at least. If it's not a work environment or a work time, a schedule that you're interested in, then move on to a different one and don't waste their or your time. Do all these things and you can stand out from the crowd. Believe it or not, many people do these 4 items here that you see on this slide. And if you will just simply look up, keep your chin up, look your interviewer in the eye, don't low talk, but talk confidently. Don't be checking your phone for updates, for whatever's going on there. And then also do your research to find out that you really do want the job that you're applying for, and then be willing to express that. If you do that, you will indeed stand out from the crowd. So, what do you do on your interview day? You will be able to get some interviews as you throw out your resume. I want you to show up early. Don't show up right at the minute that you're supposed to have the interview. Show up early. It does make a big impression to me whenever I see someone show up early. Also, dress better than the job asks you to. I always get really impressed if I see someone that truly didn't just come in a t-shirt and jeans. They came at least in a button-down. Sometimes I'll see men wear a tie, that sort of thing. It is impressive. There's no reason to dress like that day to day whenever you get the job. Some of you may be wearing scrubs every day in the job, but don't wear scrubs to the interview. Dress professionally and make them remember you. Make them remember you. I already mentioned the speak confidently, and that goes even if you're nervous. I've done many interviews. I'm sure I'll do another one in my lifetime. I'll be nervous, but you want to make sure you do speak confidently and like you know what you're talking about. I already mentioned the look up, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to look up and look the interviewer right in the eye. Diminish your weaknesses. If they see something that seems to be a weakness and you feel like they've identified it, you want to downplay it as you talk about it. Let's say you don't have very reliable transportation. You don't need to be talking about that. You want to kind of diminish any kind of weaknesses that you may have. And then you want to make your strengths apparent. If you're really good at customer service, you want to be able to tell stories of that. Inevitably, in most interviews, the interviewer will ask you, tell me about a good experience you've had or a bad experience you've had. Go ahead and have those answers ready and be able to tell of a time when you provided really good customer service. Maybe a time whenever you gave not necessarily bad customer service, but you had a bad day. Have that right at the ready, but be able to explain why it was a bad day. And again, don't highlight any of your own weaknesses as you tell that story. With that, I know y'all can get a job by putting out your resume and also just knowing what you're doing. I don't want you to not get a job despite the fact that you've taken this class and you know all the information and you just don't interview well. Interviewing is a skill that sometimes it's a little learned, and just watching this lecture all the time won't be able to just make you know it, but to be able to kind of know some of the principles of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone that is confident and someone that can show up on time and someone that knows their material. So if you can express that to a pharmacist or a manager as you're talking to them to potentially get a job, you will rise above the crowd. With that, let's go ahead and get that job and go out there and start your career.